Hey, what's going on, everyone? First, I would like to say thank you for clicking on this video and joining me on this journey. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to this video, or liked this video and subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button and turn that notification on so you can get notified every time I release a video. In today's video, I am introducing our Educator of the Week. You do not want to miss it. Stay tuned. All right, and with us today, we have Mr. Lamar Phillips. Lamar, thank you so much for joining me today. I've been super excited to meet with you and definitely talk about all the great things that you have going for yourself. I want to first start out with, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being here as well. Let's see, I'll start with the most immediate. I'm currently the director of instrumental music at Martin Luther King Junior High School in Detroit, Martin Luther King Junior Senior High School in Detroit, Michigan. Mostly teaching band, every different levels of it. We'll be launching orchestra next year. I do guitar and piano with that as well. So pretty much anything someone wants to play, I teach. Outside of that, I work with my own company, Legacy Arts Productions, and aside from doing private lessons, most recently we're working on a film score. We have connections to people do producing, arranging, classical, all types of things from the network that I'm a part of. And then the last thing, among many others, but the last thing for today is a nonprofit, the International Enlightenment Foundation. Everything I just mentioned, but with a twist of leadership, life skills, and youth entrepreneurship is the focus of that particular organization.
Wow, that's amazing. You have so many things going on, and I want to start with at what point did you know that, hey, I want to become a teacher? So can you kind of tell us, how you started that whole journey?
It's a two-part question, actually. The answer comes in two parts. So I'll start with what you said. When did I know for sure? So in college, I switched around a few times and finally landed on being a psychology major. And I took an elective class called Educational Psychology. Ding, 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 light bulb went off. And I said, okay, this is what I need to do. However, I went to Morehouse. They didn't have an education department. And so by that time, I was second semester sophomore year heading into being a junior. So I took the route I could, knowing that I was good with music. So I decided to go into music education with some raised eyebrows by the department and some others. And so I'll just make it work. One way or another, I'll make it work. So the background to that is my mom's a social worker. My dad is, he was the electrical foreman for Detroit Public Schools. I saw what my mom did. I said, I want to help people. I'll be a social worker. No, you won't. Not enough money. Okay. I said, well, what about psychologists? Nope, they do just about what I do. No, I said, well, I've always been interested in science a little bit, not as much as my brother who was a chemist. But I said, okay, child psychiatry. Why? Again, I wanted to help people. I thought I can do child psychiatry from a holistic perspective and use the Holy Spirit as well.
That's amazing.
That was the thought process, but then I couldn't get chemistry. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So the guys at the Morehouse said, most people, you do a bio major is easier than giving chemistry. And someone said, no, psychology is even easier than that. So you can make your way through. So that's how I want to be in a psychology major. Just stumbling through. I even tried my hand at engineering. I just didn't like it. But becoming a music major with a science background already actually worked in my favor. So I went through that process, moved to Virginia for a semester, and became an assistant band director there at Petersburg High School, worked at Virginia State, learned from some other professors way away from Atlanta, away from all my friends, so I could focus. We'd done some mentoring along the way. Even in high school, I had glimpses of it, working for Planned Parenthood, with the health education piece. So along the way, I had lots of clues, but the final step was on into that and become a band director in DeKalb County. Same place where they, filmed, Drumline, all those people. That's when I knew. I knew I could reach far more children that way.
Nice. And you're a music teacher at MOK. How long have you been there?
The inaugural year has been this COVID time. It just started in the fall.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
it's been interesting.
Congratulations. And so
Thank you.
you said you were really good with music. When did your journey of music begin for you?
Officially about 7. I started playing clarinet. First semester, 3rd grade, I was 7 years old. Prior to that, I probably tinkered around on my aunt's piano and a few things. My grandmother took me to the state fair and I saw a kazoo that looked like a trombone. I wanted to do that. They got to school, so we don't have any trombones. You can play this. What is this? Clarinet, and just stuck with it from Cordis Elementary to Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp, and then Ann Arbor Trails. Learned marching band when I was 10 years old, and then Interlochen, and then Cass Tech, and then Morehouse.
Oh, that's amazing. Did you play any at Morehouse at all?
I started off playing tenor sax there. I picked up a saxophone maybe in the 7th grade. I started playing tenor sax there, and I played clarinet there. Then eventually became a major in clarinet performance, and picked up the other instruments along the way. Before I left, I was drum major for a couple of years and student director, and started learning. I learned the guitar already, but went a little bit further, guitar and piano. But the woodwinds was mostly the most important thing.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite instrument?
I probably do the most with saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
I like guitar just as well, but as far as, if someone calls me and says, hey, can you, I probably would do saxophone first before guitar or piano.
Nice. Now, why did you choose saxophone?
It seemed like a regular extension. I played clarinet for a while, and I noticed I could probably be more versatile with
Mm-hmm.
that. It just seemed like a cool instrument. And then unless you're playing certain styles of jazz or Dixie or something like that, you're not going to use clarinet as much. And I already knew I didn't want to play in the symphony. I already knew that. I wanted to teach. I just got a lot of passion out of it. So it's just more readily available. But I you know what's my favorite instrument? The one that I'm teaching at the time that I'm teaching it. Whoever's in front of me, that's the favorite instrument at that time.
Yeah. So that whole being flexible, adapting to the sounds, that's a skill right there. So you say you enjoy teaching. So what would you say are, the positives of being an educator?
Watching the growth and development of others, seeing the light bulb come on in them, where they take ownership and then move on even further than what you could ever have imagined. It doesn't happen all the time, but there's always, with everyone, there's some light.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the name of my company, the Enlightenment Foundation. That's important to me. That would be the most enriching thing, is to see development.
Development. Yeah, that's always exciting to see, the fruits of your labor. And so,
Mm-hmm.
with those positive, we do know that, the profession does come with challenges. So can you kind of talk about, some of the challenges you faced as a music educator, and, how have you been able to handle those challenges, navigate those challenges, overcome those challenges?
Specifically as a music educator, the arts have always had to fight for survival. So funding and support, even though parents and students fight for it, often administrators and politicians, maybe even economists, but or I should say, people in finance, they'll look to it and say, okay, this is an expensive endeavor, and in the long run, we have to validate what we're doing, and test scores drive things.
Mm-hmm.
That is not an indicator. Well, you didn't ask me all that. I'll just say it's not an indicator of all of the intelligence that one holds and their value. So proving the worth, regardless of all the research data of how the arts engage students' minds, and as I've been studying it, and we happen to be classmates, but even as we've been studying it, the brain activity requires certain stimulation, and that's because it's very evident in music. Nevertheless, that's usually the biggest thing. So the funding has been the first. The second, for the same reason, has been scheduling. You have to make wise choices and be able to reach people where their interests are, and also you just have to think outside of the box. And when you're trying to do some cookie cutter things, or with regard to schedule, like block scheduling and things of that nature, it's not all bad. But if you don't place people where they belong, you inherently start to create management problems that didn't have to be there. So those two are two of the biggest. There are others, but those two are two of the largest. You said in music, as a music educator, I would say as an educator in general, the outside thought that we can do more than we actually should have to.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I signed up for. So I already know I have to be father, uncle, big brother, cousin, counselor, fundraiser, coach, chauffeur. I already know all those exist anyway. But for it to be expected, that's not that's not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
You don't expect an engineer to be an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
You don't expect other people to do multiple things in their profession and then not compensate them for them.
Mm-hmm.
So our time is very valuable, and to be an excellent educator and be very creative and be very engaging, it does take quite a bit. So sorry. All right.
Now, you mentioned how, school funding could be, an issue. And let's say, you were in a position to advocate, for the music department. And how would you do that?
I think the first thing that popped in my head when you said that was community. When you can show a value as a commodity, I hate to say it that way, but that's really when you show a value, you gain support. Well, one of the loudest things you can do, and I say loud on purpose because you have to be an advocate. You have to be a sounding board for one of the loudest things you can do is when you perform, and people can hear you. You gain a following, if you would. That brings attention to everyone around you. So if the local business, this is what I did when I was in Georgia, when the local businesses can see, oh, with this group comes X amount of customers, so X amount of revenue. With this group comes media coverage. With this group comes those warm fuzzies that make people pay attention to you. And you can create, especially with a family atmosphere, that creates sort of a buzz. And then when you can go beyond that and you see I saw a commercial a while ago talking about investing, but you're investing in the youth. When you can see the results of not just good music, but good character,
Mm-hmm.
when you can see those results shared out through the students, and then they become dynamic individuals, which they already are, but I'm saying when it begins to manifest, it creates a victorious, as opposed to vicious, a victorious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way I would look into it. And then for those type of endeavors, just honestly speaking, nonprofits have access at times to the funding from corporations who by default have to put aside a certain amount anyway, maybe 5% of their revenue.
Mm-hmm.
The Ford Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, they have to do certain things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they're there, but I've always not wanted to depend on that. I've always wanted to be self-sustaining. So the band, orchestra, choir, whatever, they can sell blah, 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 or they can perform and do, they should be as self-sustaining as possible.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And so what would you say is your greatest inspiration, behind the passion that you have for music and the passion that you have for making sure that the students' characters are developed, most importantly, with music?
I saw that question ahead of time and I gave you a simple answer. The simple answer is God. There's far more to it because that's a diverse entity in and of itself. But I would say my spiritual development and character requires me to pour into others. And so when that happens, the greatest leader is Christ. And I'm not talking about whatever your religious background may be, but the upper consciousness of your mind, the higher power in you drives you forward to produce, be fruitful and multiply, right?
Right.
I could stop right there because that's the bottom line. That's all I'm looking for is to see other people produce. And so I try not to, even if I'm on vacation or something like that, my brain won't stop, looking for ways to grow and to help others to grow. So the greatest inspiration would be, it's spiritual. There have been people along the way, but I saw that in them as well. So that's why, my middle and high school, middle and elementary directors, but still, it was always a spiritual calling. So that's what it is.
That's good. That's good. And so would you say that is what motivates you or, keeps you inspired to being the best at what you do?
When I heard that before, I would say yes, that's what it is. But I have to admit, I have a chip on my shoulder. I just always want to be better. I always have something to prove. It was just, so I want, oh, they're doing that, huh? No, we could do it better. Is that what it is? No. We're the competitive, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it still is that purpose-driven life. It still is that to fulfill my calling. That's it. I want to die empty. I don't want anything left. So it's always to fulfill. Just keep growing. But that is the reason for being the best that I can be. It might not be the best of all time. It's the best that I can be. And as far as my students, this is the best that we're going to be. And if you can go higher than me, then I've done my job.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's almost as if, that whole continuous learning process. You never stop learning. You never stop growing. And that is actually, a wonderful skill to have as an educator, because you're always putting yourself in that position of, being a learner and being empathetic, with your students, because you're on this continual path of education yourself. So that's amazing. I commend you on that, because not a lot of people, want to continue to, move forward in life, but there are some people who do. And I just want to, definitely affirm you in that area, because that's what we need in education, is that
momentum. Thank you.
Yes. And so you're working on some current projects. You mentioned that you had a nonprofit, a for-profit. I want to go into your nonprofit first. I know that you're working with students, and I was looking at your statement and your vision for your nonprofit. And I know one of your goals is to promote leadership through education. Your vision is to create a society of creative and innovative leaders that are conscientious and ethically responsible. So kind of tell us, how did you, get started with your nonprofit, and what are some of the goals that you have for it?
Your name is Brianna. My baby cousin's name is Brianna. She started right when I began my career. She was beginning elementary school and went to the Mae Jemison Academy or something, I believe it was. She went to a charter school. And I was just about the age where um, I wanted to know more than just about what are we teaching, but why are we doing it? And what is going on, because I was a charter movement was just beginning, and I stepped back and looked at the education industry as an entrepreneur, as a business person. I said, we have to produce something better. And why are we doing what we're doing? Well, just like any business, build a better mousetrap. Well, in this case, the better mousetrap was the more highly developed individual and highly developed groups and understanding group dynamics. So that was the impetus of let's start looking at things differently. So I began just by wanting to expose more students to the arts. And I said, well, we have to do more than that. We have to expose them to the arts and the industry and the business and the laws and the contracts and, understanding the finances and, all of those things. That was important. But the other part of it, ethically sound, I began to become disillusioned with what I was seeing from the adults and from policymakers and from people where the education of the whole child was not as important as the contracts and just it just wasn't adding up. It just wasn't adding up. So rather than complain about it, start from scratch and build. So work with students individually so they grow. And then as they grow, they come back and they support others in the mentoring. And then the next generation does the same thing. So here, 26 years later, not that the organization is 26 years, but in education, 26 plus years later, there's a pattern, if you will.
Yeah. And so with it, I heard you say that you wanted to introduce them to the arts. You also want to introduce them to STEM. How are you able to, navigate? Have you had to do things differently with the situation that our country is in, now? In what ways are you able to service those students now?
This, for better or worse, this has been the best time to do that. Before, it's all this run around going to meeting and trying to work with people. Now, I called up my fraternity brother in Japan. I mean, just online. Hey man, this is what I'm thinking of. One who's a financier in London, and he works in, in the stock market there. And hey man, so I can go anywhere. Yeah, I can be in 3 meetings at the same time, because the whole world is virtual right now. Just yesterday, I was talking with someone in Texas about coming into my classroom and working with my students, teaching more about industry. So that works out very well. And with regard to STEM, remember, I started out in engineering and then weaved my way around. So I'm not really active with the National Society of Black Engineers now. But there are people who were in the band program who were. The music touches everything. I'm not an attorney, but the people, my saxophone brothers were. So it helps to build networks and to work together. And so I do have access to those, and I try to let my students know this artistic mind that you have, it will it will help you to make other things come into fruition later. That's why you have in the statement about being innovative. The creative minds work with they're the ones who say, okay, I'm not just going to do widgets, I'm going to do it this way. Just like I learned how to sight read music, just like I learned how to improvise, I'm going to do the same thing with this particular product or this particular brand or this way of doing things, this process.
Yes, and that versatility is so important, especially now. Now that the world is changing in so many ways, being adaptable or adapting to those situations are one of the key skills you have to have. And you mentioned
Absolutely.
That this situation that we're in actually created even more opportunity for you. Being able to connect with people in Japan and Texas is actually bringing us closer together in a sense to even expand even more. than what
In
we
a way, yes.
initially imagined. And so you also teach, well, before we get into that part, what grades of students do you typically target for that International Enlightenment Foundation?
Um, as young as maybe third grade, but I would typically say fifth and above.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth and above. It depends on where I am, third or fourth grade. Robert Kiyosaki wrote his book and his a whole series of Rich Dad Poor Dad at a fourth grade education level, 9 and above. When I was in Georgia, I did do a business math class, even though I was a music teacher. I did a business math class with my third, fourth, and fifth graders. So it depends, but fifth graders can't drive, so
Mm-hmm.
that's where the high schoolers come in. But as far as just understanding things, I started working with junior achievement, fifth grade.
Fifth grade. And that's a good grade. I taught fifth grade for about 5 years before moving into the position that I have, and that was probably one of my favorite grades to teach. Was fifth grade. They're at that independent yet dependent level, but not too dependent where they can actually be more independent. It's just a fun age group. And you also do lessons. You compose, you consult, you produce with your Legacy Art Productions. So kind of tell us what services you have for those that are watching.
So to be honest, I like you say ethically sound, right? To be honest, I collaborate for those things. With the schedule that I have, I don't spend as much time composing, but I have full-time composers and conductor in the group. But I do teach just about everything. I don't teach harp because I don't have one. I don't teach oboe and bassoon, but I have access to those who do. So there's little to nothing that we can't address. Typically speaking, the traditional band, traditional orchestra instruments, and garage band, not the software, although we teach that too, but guitar, piano, keyboard, so those typical instruments we do. Outside of that, there is, arranging, producing, recording. I do that with people who are very close to me, and a lot of those alumni come back and they do whatever they can to assist. Many of them are college graduates now.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And so your village is very diverse to where you can basically pretty much do anything, unlimited, anything, and that's super important. And I have to ask you, because you said that you were in a fraternity. Do you mind sharing what fraternity you are a part of?
I will. There are two: Kappa Psi National Honorary Band Fraternity and Phi Mu Alpha Symphonia Professional Music Fraternity. Those are the two that I lay my hat on right now. I haven't gone panhandle as of yet. I'll decide about that at another time. I've been asked, but we'll see how that goes. Right now, the fraternity is Dr. Phillips. That's the fraternity. We'll talk after the doctoral program is over. Then we'll talk about other things.
And you're okay. So you're in your doctorate program.
I start in the fall. I left some other programs because I thought this was more appropriate for me. I found that getting my specialist was more immediate, as far as useful. And then the program that we share with special ed, I think those are more hands-on and for immediate usage. When I began to do consulting and whatnot, the doctoral program is valuable, but you have to finish before you can lay your hat on. So
right. Yeah. So Dr. Phillips, the future Dr. Phillips, what are you looking to get your doctorate in?
I'm headed to the Doctorate of Educational Leadership at Michigan State University.
Okay, congratulations.
Yeah, I think that's the most appropriate one. I've looked at a few programs and that one seems to fit me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hats off to you. I have a couple friends that are, in their doctorate programs. my father-in-law being one of them. And so hats off to you, because I know that it's a journey, but it's definitely well worth it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
I'm looking forward to it.
oh yes, yes. And how much longer do you have in your, because you're getting a special ed degree as well. And so how much longer do you have before you have that, specialty completed, or that certification completed?
Let me look at my calendar. Month of the end of May.
End of May?
So yeah, I have this is I'm in my final one of my last two classes now. The one that we're in now was one of my last classes. Then I have one final one. It should be starting soon. And then after that, just take the state test.
Wow, congratulations. That is
Thank you.
super exciting, super exciting. So are you looking forward to, working with special education students as, they come into the program?
I am at a interesting crossroad because I I did not seek out this position that I currently hold. It kind of found me,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't I didn't expect it at all. So I like to start what I finish. So I don't know that I will go that direction immediately because this year just stopped everything
Oh yeah.
or slowed it down. So I do want to see some results on a major scale with this program before I do something else. However, the resource children are in my program,
Absolutely.
and it's been since 1994. My programs began with a large number of students who were exceptional students,
Mm-hmm.
and they never go away. I'm already doing it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now you have the experience under your belt. You're getting ready to get the certification under your belt. I mean, you are like A1. Like, I mean, you got the music ed, you got the special ed, you have the nonprofit, the for-profit, and now you're on to your doctorates. Super excited that you decided to, join me today. And I'm sure this is not the last time that we
I
will
hope not.
connect. And so before we go, what advice do you have for people who are watching?
Take the time to understand your gifting. When you do not be afraid to dive into a purpose-driven life. When you find your gifting, you find your purpose, things will come at you to stop you, but they won't be able to. So lean in on that, and as you're doing so, that connection with the higher power will continue to drive you as well. So lean in on that, and welcome the support that will come, because if you write the vision and make it plain, then those that see it can run with it. It will come at a point in time and will not lie. So lean in on that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom, your experience with us. And I'm definitely looking forward to having another interview with you. And I want to wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Best wishes this coming May as you are finishing your ed degree. I'm coming right behind you. And you can definitely count on me for support. So keep
I'm
up
looking
the great
forward to it. Thank you so
and
much.
yep, continue to be successful, and I wish you the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, you guys heard it best. My challenge for you this week is to lean in. Remember, you have what it takes. Be great and accelerate. Until next time, peace.